lot of times I think people enter entrepreneurship because they think it is this attractive thing. They think it is the sexy thing, but they don't realize how difficult it actually is. And so their mind is not prepared for battle. Welcome back to the Leaders Only podcast, where we talk about business, leadership, mindset, and just pretty much anything revolved around building an incredible life. You know, one of the reasons that I started this podcast is because I felt like on the way to where we're at now, there wasn't really a place to go to learn tangible skills that are needed in order to succeed and further yourself and just get better overall in every area of your life. And so some background about me, I built a sales company that does over 8 figures a year. I own over $10 million worth of real estate, and I've built a multiple 7-figure income that's streamlined and in all honesty doesn't really need me. I plan on teaching you and documenting everything that I learned along the way. And if you get something out of today's message, if you can do me a favor, if you can like, share, and subscribe, it will give us the ability to further our message and help more people, which is what we're all about. Thank you guys so much. Let's dive in. I'm a big mood. You can't name a lot of things. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Leaders Only podcast, where we talk about business, leadership, mindset, and just pretty much anything revolved around building an incredible life. And today I am joined by two of my brothers. We got the special Q&A episode going on. I got my main man, Nott, who you guys are familiar with.
Yo.
And I have my brother, Abdoul Adjanakrou, dialed in.
What's going on, guys? How you guys doing?
Most think he's my security guard.
Hey, I'm just here just so I don't get fined. That's all.
And the reason people think he's my security guard is because he literally tells everyone that he's my security guard.
Hey, listen, I'm just trying to get the check.
Yeah, if you guys want to know, me and Chris are tall, dark, and handsome, but this gentleman's even more taller, darker, and handsomer.
I think I'm short, in my opinion.
To give you guys an idea, we're both 6 feet, and so that kind of gives you perspective on how tall he is.
Exactly. We're 6 feet on camera. That's why. And unless you're in person, you can't verify. So we're just gonna.
That's true.
We're just gonna roll with it.
Hey, I'll give you guys 6 feet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I could use everything.
We're grateful.
It's the least that I can do.
Well, awesome. Yeah. Excited to be with you guys. I know we're going to dive into a bunch of stuff today. And by the way, if you're listening right now and you want to submit any type of questions, you guys can submit those questions on social media. You guys can go to the YouTube channel. Just went under our Q&A episodes, and you guys can submit them there, and we'll answer those questions as well. But yeah, let's do this, man.
Heck yeah. Hey, so, Matt, you've been in the game for 10 years now, almost a decade, and, you have a ton of experience in the industry. So I was thinking about some of the things I wanted to ask you. And the first one is, with all your experience in the industry, all the ups and downs, the entrepreneurial roller coaster, what do you think's the biggest killer for a brand new entrepreneur's success in the beginning?
Goodness gracious. Biggest killer for entrepreneurs that are entering the space of entrepreneurship. Well, number one, I don't think anybody that starts into entrepreneurship is an entrepreneur yet, right? Like, I think you have to earn the right to be called an entrepreneur, and not from an egotistical perspective, right? But there's so many people that say, oh, I'm going to start a business, I'm an entrepreneur. And the reason is because entrepreneurship is sexy, right? Like, everyone likes the way it sounds. Everyone likes the way that it looks. You see all the movies about the entrepreneur that went and started some incredible business that became famous and all these things. So I think people look at entrepreneurship as this attractive, sexy title, but it's not in any way, shape, or form. And people don't realize that until they get into it. And so a lot of times I think people enter entrepreneurship because they think it is this attractive thing. They think it is the sexy thing, but they don't realize how difficult it actually is. And so their mind is not prepared for battle. Like, they're not prepared for war. They're not prepared for battle, right? And I think that's kind of the difference. Like when you look at a Navy SEAL, they send Navy SEALs into, on a mission. These Navy SEALs are ready to get shot. These Navy SEALs are ready to get stabbed. They're ready to die for their country. They're ready to die for the cause. And I think most people don't enter entrepreneurship ready to die for the cause. I think they enter entrepreneurship because they want to have a lifestyle, they want a better life, whatever it might be. And so they don't really fully understand what actually comes with it, which is being shot at, stabbed, punched in the face, beat to a pulp, and not from a physical perspective, but from a mental perspective, from what goes through your mind, how you feel, all the hard times, the adversity, right? So I think that's number one. I would say number two, one of the biggest killers is just people taking advice from people they shouldn't, right? Like, they take advice from people who aren't where they want to be. And you have to avoid that at all costs, right? Like, I think one of the worst things that you can ever do as an entrepreneur is take advice from a successful employee. because all an employee can teach you how to do, and I don't mean this disrespectful to employees, because if you love what you do, that's all that matters, right? But if you're taking advice as an entrepreneur from a successful employee, that's the blind leading the blind. An employee has no idea what it takes to actually build a business. They have no idea what it takes to build a company. Right. And so to take advice from someone like that is just going to steer you in the wrong direction. So that'd be the second thing, is just people taking advice from the wrong people who are not where they want to be. And then the last thing that I would say, I think when you enter entrepreneurship, there's this qualification period where you find out if you are actually truly deserving of the success. And most people quit before they get to that point where they're actually deserving. They enter entrepreneurship thinking like, oh, I'm already enough. I'm already the person that I need to be. But the person you are entering entrepreneurship is nowhere near the person you need to become to actually achieve success. It's just the reality, right? Like people enter because they're like, all right, I want more. I deserve more. I'm tired of working for somebody. I can do this better, whatever it might be. And then they go in thinking they're enough, not realizing that I'm not the person I need to be to have the levels of success that I want to have. I'm not the person that I need to be to attain the levels of success that I want to have. And so they have to go through this qualification period where they get beat to a pulp, like I said earlier, so that way they can qualify themselves as deserving because they built the calluses on their mind. They built the calluses in the space of entrepreneurship, and then that qualifies them, and then all of a sudden they start to feel more deserving, right? So I think those are the biggest killers, is like what you just talked about, or like we just talked about, is they don't think that they're enough. They take advice from the wrong people, and they're just not ready for war. They're not ready for a battle, and that's exactly what it's going to take in order to build a business.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely agree with that. And I also feel like in the beginning stages, the main reason why most people stop pursuing the entrepreneur journey is because they feel like they have a lot of haters, or they have people who are holding them back, right? So let's say for you, for an example, when you first started, what was like this big moment that you felt like you were facing a lot of adversity and you were kind of questioning if you should keep going or you should stop the journey? What was that for you?
Dude, I think there's so many times where... like I never was going to quit. Like there was never a moment where I was like, I'm going to give up or I'm going to quit. But there were so many moments when I was questioning whether it was worth it. There were so many moments when I was just like, F, man, like, are you kidding me? Like when you just sit there and you don't want to do anything because you're like, I just tried everything that I could and it still wasn't enough, in a sense, right? Like, so there's these moments where you just get paralyzed, where you just don't want to move because you moving before led to that moment. Right. And I can tell you many stories on that, but I remember about my first year in the financial space, right? I've been in entrepreneurship, like you guys said, for over 10 years, but I remember my first year entering the space of entrepreneurship on the financial realm. And I went super hard my first year, worked my butt off. I'm talking about 16, 18-hour days, getting my financial business off the ground. And we got to a point where we had about 40, 46, 47 licensed agents. I had promoted some people into a leadership role that started, paying a passive six-figure income stream. And that was just going hard in the financial space. And then all of a sudden adversity happened. And, there was people that I trusted that I shouldn't have trusted that, just took advantage of me being young, 19, 20 years old in the business. And I trusted in people that I shouldn't have trusted in. I got taken advantage of. And all of a sudden I went from having 47 licensed agents that I worked my butt off for an entire year to create, to having to start over and having no one in my business anymore. And so I literally had to start over. And so imagine working your butt off for 12 months in a row. It might've been I think I was actually 18 months into the business, not 12 months. So yeah, I was 18 months into the business. And imagine working your butt off 16-hour days every day for 18 months straight, no days off. I'm talking about 7 days a week, only to have nothing.
Most people would quit.
Yeah. And that's how I felt, right? I was like, I worked so hard and I had nothing. Everything was gone. And I remember it was December, and I remember that entire month of December, I was depressed. I was, like I said, I didn't want to give up, but I was just questioning, like, is this really what I want to do? Is this the journey that I want to be on? And I remember there were certain nights where I even cried, right? Because I was just so over it. And I knew the work that was required to get it back to that point. And it was me questioning if I wanted to put in that work again, right? Mm-hmm. But then there was a couple things that happened. Number one, there was a gentleman that I took out to lunch. His name was Pastor Chad Greer, actually. And I took him out to lunch because I was just in such a depressed state. And I was trying to rebuild the business, and it was me and like 2 people. And I went from having, 40, 50, 60 people in my business showing up to now having 2 to 3 people in my business showing up. And I didn't want to show up because I was embarrassed, right? I was like, what am I going to do? Come train 2 to 3 people? I'm used to being on a stage and training people.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and said, Matt, let me ask you a question. And he humbled me in this moment. He said, let me ask you a question. He said, I'm a pastor of a church. What if I showed up to church this Sunday and only 2 to 3 people were in the room? Am I not going to deliver God's word just because there's not enough people in the audience?
Ooh, that's a big one.
And he asked me that. And I just, as a believer, as a person of faith, I literally just sat there and I was like, I'm being the most egotistical person in the world right now, to think that I'm not going to show up and give my absolute best just because there's 2 to 3 people in the room. And I'm used to, 40, 50, 60 people in the room.
Yeah.
And so I made the decision at that moment. I was like, I'm going to go build it bigger. I'm going to show up for these people like I've never shown up for them before. I'm going to go above and beyond, and I'm going to rebuild this thing bigger and better than ever before, which led me to a second thing that shifted my thinking. There was a course that Tai Lopez, I don't know if you guys know who Tai Lopez is, right? So Tai Lopez was all over the internet at that time, and he
check out this Lamborghini.
Yeah. Exactly, right? And so there was this Tai Lopez course that came out, and I was like, I need something. I didn't really have a place to go get mentorship. I didn't have a place to go get guidance on entrepreneurship. So I started investing into different ways to gain knowledge. Because like I said, the people that I trusted is what led to me losing my business, right? And so I started investing in things in order to learn, in order to get dialed in order to understand entrepreneurship at a deeper level. So I was like, there's this guy, he's all over the internet. I don't know who he is, but heck, I'll pay for his course. And his course was $475. And at that time I was struggling. I just lost, a bunch of income and business, the whole 9 yards. So
that's back before every course was $997.
Yeah. Before $997, right? It was $475. So I remember I invested $475, and this is no knock to Tai, but it was a, 9 times out of 10, there would be this hour and a half long message, and I was like, where are we going? What is the point of this? And it was these stories about monks and all these different things. But there was one thing that he said that just spoke to me. And he said, he was talking about how he lost the business and had to rebuild it. And he said, the best part about losing it all is that you get to rebuild it in your vision. Oh. You get to rebuild it in your vision. And that stuck out to me because in the beginning stages of me trying to get my business off the ground, I felt like I was building it in the image of everyone else because I was doing it to their standard. Mm-hmm. And so then when I was put almost on this island of having to do things all on my own, I was like, well, I now no longer have to answer to how everyone else wants to build their business. I'm on an island, meaning that whatever I want to build, I'm going to build. Yeah. And so I started getting clear on what it is that I wanted in my business. I was like, I wanted to build a brotherhood. I wanted to build a sisterhood. I wanted to build a locker room environment because I remember what it felt like before game night on a Friday night. I remember what it felt like to walk out onto the field in the stands and being there with your teammates and knowing the people that you could go to war with. I remember those feelings. I was like, I want to recreate that in the business. And so everything that I started doing from that point on was, I'm going to build a world-class business. I'm going to show up for my people 100% because of what Pastor said. But then also I'm going to build exactly what it is that I want. I'm going to build a locker room. I'm going to build a brotherhood. I'm going to build a sisterhood. I'm going to build an environment of loyalty where people just have each other's back and are willing to fight for each other and die for each other. And that's what stemmed from that adversity. So we ended up losing everything. I ended up losing everything, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it removed the right people out of my life. And then it allowed me to become more foundational on what it is that I wanted to build long term. So I was grateful for that setback, even though in that entire month, I didn't want to get out of bed.
That's huge. Yeah, the way you look at it's everything. It sounds like you owe Pastor another lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he had a
Pastor
huge...
Chad Greer. If you ever listen to this, I appreciate you.
He had a huge ripple effect. That's awesome. Back to the first question, I want to kind of dial back because I think a lot of people get caught up in this imposter syndrome when they are starting an entrepreneurship. And right now, everybody's an entrepreneur. Like you said, it's the cool thing. So let's say somebody, really does want to get started in business and succeed to high levels in business, but they don't want to seem like everybody else on social media that's just posting, oh, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. How do they build that credibility? And when do you think that it's, a good time for them to actually start embracing that they are an entrepreneur and branding themselves as an entrepreneur without feeling like a fraud and feeling like everybody else on social media?
That's a good question, man. I'll tell you this. One of the things you helped me through actually, because I remember I called you and I was like, dude, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. I'm thinking about starting to get on social media. I'm thinking about doing these things. I was like, I just feel like a fraud. And that's what I literally told you. Remember that conversation?
I totally remember.
I was like, dude, I feel like a fraud. Like, I was like, why in the world? Like, I haven't done anything. I haven't built a business.
I remember the first video you took from your chair in your office, and you said, dude, I took this video so many times and I was so afraid to post it. And I was like, dude, that video was freaking awesome. You killed it.
Yeah, I literally probably recorded. It took me like 87 times to get that video. It took me like 87 pieces of recording and then messing it up and then messing it up. But I just remember having that conversation with you, and that's one of the reasons why I love having you on the show, because I remember running that conversation with you, and you're one of the people that encouraged me to get onto social media and start branding myself in business as an entrepreneur, because I felt that way. I felt like I was a fraud and that I wasn't deserving of it. And you looked at me and you're like, dude, how many people you know have built an 8-figure company? How many people you know have, owned, $15 million worth of real estate as of right now? He's like, how many people you know have built a multiple $1 million annual passive income stream? How many people you know have built a financial agency of 1,500, now 2,000 licensed agents, right? Like, it's like, how many people you know have ever done that? And I said, you're qualified for it. And I remember you telling me that, and I was just like, He said, and you said this to me, he said, you thinking you're not qualified for it is the exact reason that you are.
Mm-hmm. That was powerful.
Because you're not one of those people that was faking it and like faking that you did something. And what I've done, I just don't think what I've done is impressive. Mm-hmm. And that's why you saying that like pushed me into it was such a big deal for me. So for those that are looking to brand yourself as an entrepreneur, I wouldn't even say go out there and brand yourself as an entrepreneur. Just put out value. Mm-hmm. Like, it's really what it is. Like, I don't think most people, until you've been in business for 5 years, you can call yourself an entrepreneur, but I really don't believe like entrepreneurship starts until you've at least made it to the 5-year room. Mm-hmm. All right, like make it to the 5-year room, then you can truly start calling yourself an entrepreneur. You make it to the 10-year room, now you're really an entrepreneur. Like, I think most people call themselves like an entrepreneur in 3 months, and then they're out of business.
I see some people do it in 1 day.
Yeah, like it's their first day. Like, I'm an entrepreneur now.
The LLC.
Like they opened up an LLC. I was like, anybody could. My dog can go open up an LLC right now and start a business. So I would just say, like, don't focus on branding yourself as an entrepreneur. Just focus on putting out value, and then naturally people will brand you based off the value that you give. So if you have value in a space, just put out value, and then people will start to look at you in that space. And then maybe one day you might turn into an entrepreneur as long as you're consistent enough and you continue to do it.
Yeah. One of the things you said was, I don't feel like what I've done is impressive. I think when you're, addicted to growing and becoming better and becoming more and helping more people, you're always going to feel like that, regardless of the level. And would you say that's, would you agree with that? Or do you think that what do you think on that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I speak from my own perspective. Like, I don't think what I have done is impressive because you're in the moment building it, So like, somebody asked me the other day, like, do you feel like you're deserving of certain success? I'm like, dude, I friggin' know I'm deserving of the success that we've had. Like, I know for a fact because I was with me in every moment. So it wasn't like we won the lottery and got handed some check and we got handed something and now all of a sudden we're not deserving. I was like, dude, I was with me working those 18 hours. I was with me in every ounce of every one of those adversities. I was with me when we had to restart and build. Like, I was with me in all of those moments. I was with me when I lost this money. I was with me in all those things. So I was with myself. And so because I was with myself, I do feel like 100% everything that we have, we deserve. And heck, I feel like we deserve more because of the work that we're putting in.
Right.
I think it's unimpressive because by the time you get somewhere, your mind had already been there. Right? Your mind always arrives at the destination before you do, right? So if you want to, like, I'll give you an example. Let's say you really want to get into a nice home, right? The only way for you to get into a nice home is for you to feel like you're already deserving of that home and for it to be unimpressive to you. Like, if you walk into a home and it's impressive to you, then that typically means that you don't feel like you're deserving of it, which means that
you're probably going to lose the home.
Yeah. You're probably going to lose it. Like, so there's just this thing where it's unimpressive because your mind was already there before you were, right? This is why when people hit a goal, they're no longer fired up because their mind had already reached the goal 6 months prior. So let's say I set up the goal, I was going to make $1 million this year, right? Well, by the time I get to $1 million, you cross $1 million in income, and then all of a sudden you're like,
What's next?
Yeah, it's like, well, wasn't impressive. Well, why wasn't it impressive? Because your mind was at 1 million 6 months before you got to 1 million. So by the time you got there, you're like, this is 6 months old news. And then it's 2 million, then it's 3 million, then it's 4 million, and it just continues to climb. And that's really what happens is by the time you get there, you're unimpressed because your mind had already been there for 6, 7, 8 months, because your income will follow your mind. Your business will follow where your mind is. Your lifestyle will follow where your mind is. So by the time your mindset, your business, and your income catches up, your mind is already on to the next thing, which is why you can't attach your happiness and your fulfillment to the goal, because by the time the goal shows up, you're already thinking about the next best thing. And I think that's what most people do. And that's what I did for years. For years, I was trying to build a business, and I was like, when I hit that goal, I'll be happy. And when I hit that milestone, I'll be fulfilled. And when I hit this, or when I attain this, and then all of a sudden you have those things happen and you're like, how come I'm not happy? How come I'm not fulfilled? Is because you've already felt like you had it for 6, 7 months.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to learn to love the journey, as difficult as the journey is, which is why I think people need to fall in love with growth and not goals.
100%.
I think if you're growth oriented, you'll stay in the game longer. I think if you're goal oriented, you'll hit a goal, you'll be unfulfilled, and or you'll hit it and you'll stop. So I think people need to go from being goal oriented to being growth oriented. And I think you should have goals, but that shouldn't be the end all be all. I think you should be growth oriented. As long as you're growth oriented, the goals will be hit along the way.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that was me at a certain point in business. I remember my main goal when I started, obviously you helped me with this, was retiring my mom, right? And once I was able to do that, coming back from Africa, I felt like I was stagnant for like 6 months because that was the only thing that I was thinking about. And once I was able to achieve that, I was just stuck, right? So it wasn't until we had that conversation, you were telling me you need to go from goals to growth, right? So that definitely helped me a ton. But my next question to you is just going back to the first question is, like, for that brand new person who's getting into the entrepreneurship game, maybe they're 18, 19, or maybe they might be even 40 and they're just starting their business, right? There's that phase where they're getting that doubt. They're feeling that pressure from everybody around them, right? What advice would you give to that specific person who's getting a lot of doubt and who's getting a lot of fear poured into them right now? What would you say to that person?
Just say, keep going. Like, keep going. You know, I think the hardest part about the beginning stages of wanting to change your life is the isolation that's required, right? Like, some people have heard me say, like, you have to isolate in order to elevate, right? The reason that is because in the very beginning stages of you building a business or starting a company, whatever it might be, you haven't quite earned your way into the room of people who are successful, right? Yeah. So you don't have good associations just yet. And so so when you give up the bad associations, and you haven't quite earned your way into the room of good associations, well, now you have no associations. Yeah. And it's a very lonely road. It's a very lonely thing. This is why I always tell people, like, it's not lonely at the top. It's lonely on your way to the top because you have to isolate in order to get there, right? Mm-hmm. You have to be by yourself because now you're trying to grow, you're trying to get better. But I think in those moments you uncover such powerful things about yourself because you learn to be alone. I think most people don't know how to be alone. You learn because you're not in constant conversations about random stuff that doesn't matter. It's just you, yourself, and I, and you're more aware of your thoughts. You're more aware of the things that you're thinking. You're paying attention to things that you weren't paying attention to before because you learn how to just be silent and you learn how to just be quiet. And when you're in a silent place and in a quiet place, you start to be able to hear your gut a lot more. You start to be able to hear your
intuition,
your intuition, right? You start to hear the guided version of you. And I think most people never, I think it's why people meditate. I've never gotten into meditation, not because it's a bad thing. I just haven't gotten into it. But I think for me, the reason I like solitude so much is because when I'm quiet and when it's just me, I can hear the best version of me polling. I can hear the best version of me calling. I can hear this voice of the version of me that God created me to be. I can hear that voice when I'm just by myself and I just silence everything around me, right? So I would tell that person to just stay the course, be willing to be alone, right? But then I'd also say, just don't listen to these people, right? Like, if they don't have what you want, then stop listening to them. I just think that's it.
Like, doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Like, you're a built guy. You're ripped, bro. If you're listening to this right now, all right, this guy's a big dude. And so who do you think I'm going to go to? Like, if I wanted a health advice, am I going to go to the person that's out of shape, or am I going to go to the person that's fit and in shape and a buff dude? Yeah, because there's a track record there, right? So I think the doubters and that lack of support there, you just got to learn to just tune it out and just go to work. And I think another reason why the reason people actually hear those voices is because they're not actually working.
That is
They're not actually working. Like people say, Matt, did you have a lot of doubters and haters and things like that in the beginning? I was like, maybe, but I don't know, right? I'm assuming I did, but I was in the office 24/7. So I didn't hear from these people. I wasn't in the rooms of people where they were talking smack or doubting or anything because I was so busy working and I was so busy trying to scale my business that I didn't have time to listen to all this doubt and all these negative people because I was too busy trying to build something, right? Yeah. So I think one of the reasons that people hear all these naysayers and they hear all this doubt and they hear all this negativity is because they have so much availability because they're not actually working. And so they're like, oh, I'm in business and I'm in entrepreneurship, but I'm at every barbecue and I'm at every family event and I'm hanging out with people on the weekends. And I'm like, well, that's why you're hearing it. When I got into entrepreneurship, I literally just closed the doors on everything. I put my head down for years and didn't pick it back up. And so there wasn't a lot of noise because I wasn't surrounding myself with people who were creating noise. Mm-hmm. That's just it. And then if you have a family member or a loved one that is maybe doubting you or causing negativity in you or pouring doubt or whatever it might be just into you, or you just don't like being around them on this journey, have a real conversation with them. I remember there was somebody that I loved that I told him, I said, listen, like, this is my business. This is what I'm going to do. I said, stop pouring negativity into me. Stop doubting me. Stop asking me questions about how my little business is going. Like, stop doing those things, or else as much as I love you, you're not going to be in my life anymore. You're not going to be in my life anymore.
Huge.
And I was willing to have that tough conversation and be like, either stop and support me or get out of my life altogether. Because if you really cared about me and this mattered to me, you would encourage me and support me along the way, not try to pull me back along the way. And so I think people just need to have those conversations if there are immediate people in their life, right? Like this is a person I respect more than anything. I'm not going to mention his name, but I respect him so much, and he's such a great dude. And he had his wife that was all, like, he would go home to his wife after trying to build a business, and she would always be negative, and she would always be negative, and she would always be negative. And one day he goes home and she's just being negative, and he looked at her. He said, "Listen, I love you more than anything in this world. I love you more than anything in this world." I said, "But I want you to know that I will never choose you over my dreams." He said, I will never choose you over my dreams. He said, and here's the reason why. If I choose you over my dreams, then I'm going to eventually resent you because I never chase my dreams, which means that I'm going to choose you now and hate you later. And I don't want that. So there's two things that need to happen. Either number one, you support me moving forward, where I can have the love of my life and chase my dream at the same time. And I don't think that's a lot to ask. I said, or number two, you divorce me today, because I'm never giving up on my dream. I'm never giving up on where I'm going. And when he told me that, like, that inspired me, because I was like, dang, that's legit. Give me the chills. Right? It's a big deal. Most people are not willing to have that conversation, and it's true, right? Like, you give up on your dreams for somebody or some person or a family member or whatever it is, you're going to end up resenting these people because they kept you from chasing what you knew you were capable of doing.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have not had the opportunity to subscribe just yet, if you can go ahead and do that, that would be incredible. We have about 10,000 plus active listeners, and not all of you have subscribed just yet. So if you guys can go ahead and do that, that would be incredible. And hopefully you enjoy the rest of the episode.
Yeah. Wow. That's a crazy story.
That is a crazy story.
It's obviously a lot tougher when it's your immediate loved ones, but is there a side of you that likes channeling that and putting it into, utilizing it as fuel?
Like, what do you mean? Like, likes doubters and haters? And
likes doubters, likes to tap into their dark side energy, go prove them wrong just for you.
Do you want the politically correct answer
Absolutely
for social
not.
media?
I don't do politically
We want to know the
correct.
real, because I know for me personally, I like the dark stuff. So I want to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, it's never been the rah, we're going to change the world that got me going. Those things inspired me. But that's not where my motivation came from. My motivation came from proving some people freaking wrong. My motivation came from the person that doubted me. My motivation came from the person that said no. My motivation came from the person that said I wouldn't be anything. My motivation came from the school teacher back in the day when I told him I was going to be an entrepreneur and he laughed at me and said I wouldn't make it. My motivation came from every single person that quit on me. And my motivation came from every single person that talked ill about me, even though I went above and beyond for them. My motivation came and continues to come from every person that doubts me. Like, I pray for people to doubt me. Like, I want you to doubt me. I want you to doubt me. Doubt me, please. Because the more you doubt me, the more you feed my soul. And it's not the sense of me wanting to prove you wrong. It's when someone doubts me, it just makes me want to prove myself right that much more. Like, I don't care about you, right? Like, your doubt in me doesn't bother me. But what it does is it awakens a new version of me where it's like, they doubt me. Everyone else around me is doubting me. Well, then I need to prove to myself more than ever before that I freaking deserve to win, that I am somebody, that I can do great things with my life. So I freaking love when people doubt. I love when people talk ill, because I also know that anything they're talking ill of, I know for a fact is not true, because I've been with me in every moment. And one thing that I've always been good about, at least I would like to think so, is that if people talk ill, if people talk bad, I do everything in my power to be honorable and respectful regardless. I'll let you talk bad. I'll let you punch me in the face. I'll let you say something bad about me. I'm not giving into that. I'm not going to talk bad about you. I'm not going to speak ill of you. I'll let you continue to make yourself look bad by talking bad of others, while I'll just go focus on winning, right? One of my favorite quotes is that winners focus on winning while losers focus on winners. And so for me, I just spend all my time focusing on winning. And the more people doubt, the more people pour negativity, the more it validates why I'm doing what it is that I'm doing. Because I know that building a business is not for everyone. I know that changing the world is not for everyone. But it's the people that are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are typically the ones that do. And I know for a fact that I'm capable of changing the world with the people that are in our circle, with the people that are in our lives. I know for a fact that we can go change the world. So I don't give in to all these people that are trying to ruin our vision of making this world a better place and leaving it better than we found it. So 100%. I love it, and I let it feed my soul. I don't let it control my intentions, but I allow it to fuel my motivation. So when people are negative, doubtful, I don't allow it to control my intentions, because I think if I'm going to work just to prove you wrong, that's bad intentions, right? So I don't allow it to affect my intentions, but I allow it to feed my motivation. I allow it to be, gas in my vehicle that keeps my vehicle going. But my intentions are pure. My intentions are about the vision. My intentions are about helping people. My intentions are about making things better. My intentions are never about that person. That's just fuel that keeps me going towards my intentions.
Yeah. I think that every entrepreneur who's succeeded to a high level probably has one of those lists of hey, this person said that.
List, yeah, for sure. And by the way, we don't even need to write it down.
Right.
You never forget it, 100%. Because it's the taunting voice. Yeah, it's that voice.
You hear that conversation over and over, replaying in your head.
Right? You see their face. And come on, baby. Like, it just makes you like, Like,
I think the best part too is when you do go and succeed, and then they come back and pretend like they've been supporting you the whole time.
I mean, I haven't gotten that.
You're like, I haven't made it to that point.
Yeah, you must have really pissed some people off.
Well, no, here's the deal. Most people justify while they're losing, and they blame you, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I've made mistakes in my career. I've made mistakes in my life. Nothing to the point where you can speak ill of my name. Makes sense? Like, I might have hurt your feelings here and there, right? I might have challenged people too hard. I might have gotten frustrated in moments. But what's crazy is, like, even in those moments that I did, I've always been the first person to apologize, right? Like, there was a woman even 2 years ago that got under my feathers, and I responded, and it wasn't even a bad response, but you can tell I was frustrated. You can tell, if you would have been there, you could tell I was frustrated. You can tell I was annoyed, and it showed through in my tone. But I still did not flip a switch to a point that I regret. I just wish I wouldn't have the fact that I got annoyed. But here's the deal. Within hours, I made a phone call back apologizing for getting annoyed. And that's what nobody will ever see. And that's what I know about me. So you can continue to be bitter, but I called and apologized, even though I didn't even do something to intentionally hurt your feelings. So I think that's another part about it is I've been with me in these moments. And if there is people that are talking ill in any way, it's not typically because I did anything to them. It's because they started not performing to the level in which they could be. And the fact that we continue to grow, it was easier to blame leadership than it is to take responsibility for their own actions. And that's what most people do, right? Like, somebody told me the other day, they're like, oh, just somebody I was leading, they're like, oh, I let this person win because of X, Y, and Z. I was like, get out of here. You didn't let this person win. That person worked their butt off. Don't take credit from that couple. That couple worked their butt off. They're hardworking. I was like, don't you ever take credit from that couple, right? You didn't let them win. They worked their butt off. They stayed focused. They got clear. You got distracted. You let your, like, you know what I'm saying? And I defended that couple because they earned it in every step of the way. So I just think that
It's a sting to the ego.
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess,
but it needs to, you know, it needs to be said.
Well, I'm just not going to allow somebody to justify. I'm just not going to allow somebody to justify
why they lost.
By pointing the finger at someone else. Like, that's just not okay.
Right.
Yeah. So my question to you is this, right? Staying on that topic. So right now you're working like 16, 18-hour days. Are you doing that because you still want to prove your haters wrong, or what's the main intention? I mean, because you're financially free, right? You pretty much have a whole bunch of real estate. You got passive income coming in. Like, what's the main motivation right now?
Yeah. Well, by the way, it's our business that's generated the income. The real estate was just because we needed a place to invest money, right? Like in business, there's like stages, right? You have your business going, then you have so much excess capital coming in, and there's only so much money you can invest back into your business, to the point that it just doesn't even make sense. There's just so much excess capital. And then the smartest thing for us to do with it is not have it in the bank. So that's just what we purchased, right? But for us, one of the things that keeps me going is there's two things, okay? Number one is I made a promise to a bunch of people that I would help them change their life. And if I stopped when I got good, then it was really never about our people. It was always about me making sure that I was good. And I see that all the time. I can't tell. I mean, I have a list of people that went on to make money. They made money. They made a whole bunch of promises to people in order to get to the point that they were making money. And then they stopped and they got out of the game. And they stopped helping people the way that they were. And they retired. And for me, I can't do it. I couldn't even if I wanted to. Like, how do I look you in the eyes and tell you I'm going to help you change your life? And then the moment I get good, I stop helping you. Like, I just can't do that. And there's people that can sleep like a baby. That I just can't do that.
It's called zero integrity.
Like, I just don't get it. I can't do it. You know, I mean, heck, I had people say it to me, and then they were nowhere to be found. And like, I just can't live with myself. I wouldn't be able to go to bed tonight if I promised you guys, because I made that promise to you too. Like, you know, I made the promise that I would help you change your life, and I would help you. And you guys had enough trust and faith to believe in me. And so if I gave up, or if I let off the gas or whatever it is, like, dude, I would hate me. And I just don't want, I want to make sure that one day when I die, people could say that man rode this thing until the wheels fall off trying to help me win. There was never a moment where he stopped and got good for him. It was, he kept going, because nobody wants to work 16-hour days. Like, I don't want to work 18-hour days. Like, let's just be real, right? Like, nobody wants to do that. But it's for the betterment of the people that we made promises to. And if that means that we can help our people get to a place where they succeed faster, I'm all about it. So that's number one, is we made a commitment, and to not follow through on the commitment would just be against everything that I believe in, right? The second thing is I want to find out what I'm capable of. I want to find out what I'm capable of doing. And so I'm pushing myself and challenging myself, and I'm going harder, and I'm trying to crack new thresholds and break new PRs, and I'm trying to figure out what am I capable of doing, right? Like, if I want X, Y, and Z, and someone else has it, that means that they tapped into a version of them that I haven't tapped into just yet. So I'm not chasing them from a perspective of, you know, wanting them to lose. I'm chasing me, right? Like, I want to find out, who do I need to become in order to have that? And so that's really what it comes down to. Like, when people hear me say, like, oh, I want to become a billionaire, has nothing to do with the money. Like, heck, after you hit a couple $100 million, like, what do you do with it? Like, your money makes you so much money at that point that you don't need to continue to strive to achieve more money. It's not about money. It's about who do you need to become in order to attain that level of money? What skills do I need to develop? What type of person? How much do I need to increase my capacity, right? How much on my plate do I need to handle? How good do I need to get at leverage? How good do I need to get at business and streamlining things? How efficient do I need to become? How many employees do I get to hire and help them change their life and employ them and their families? That's going to get, there's so much more to it. Has nothing to do with the actual dollar amount, because after a certain dollar amount, there's only so much more money that you can possibly have where it actually improves your lifestyle, right? Like it's not about that. I just want to find out, like, what am I capable of doing? What am I capable of doing? Right? I'm 28 years old. God willing, I'm going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off. But 120, baby, 120. I just want to know that when I die and I'm on my deathbed, I could say I left it all on the playing field. I loved everyone that was in my life with unconditional love. I went hard for my businesses. I went hard for the people that I was leading. I went hard for myself, right? I challenged myself. I pushed myself. I stayed out of my comfort zone and continued to jump into the places that made me uncomfortable, right? Like, you know, we recently made an entrepreneur or a business transition, right? And in that transition to launching a new company, people are like, are you scared? Are you nervous? Or whatever it is, right? Like, it's a new company. It's a new this. I mean, well, starting anything new is going to, you know, no matter what, it doesn't matter what it is. But I wasn't nervous because we only get one life. So what am I going to do? Sit around and be a part of something that's average and just be okay with an average existence? Or am I willing to get uncomfortable temporarily to try to stretch myself and push myself and also help and benefit other people? Once again, it just comes down to finding out what we are capable of. I don't want to stay in a place of comfortability if that means that people's lives are not going to be better because of it. I'm willing to get extremely uncomfortable. I'm willing to put everything on the line regarding myself in order to give other people a better opportunity. And that's exactly what we did, right? That's exactly what we did. So I've never been afraid to make that jump. And the reason is we're going to die one day. So I don't want to look back and say I could have done this. I want to be on the side of saying I tried everything. I did everything. There was times I won. There was times I lost. But boy, did we have a good run. And that's what I want to make sure at the end of our life. Hey, we tried some things. We lost. We've won. Right? But in no way, shape, or form did I settle. In no way, shape, or form did I become complacent. In no way, shape, or form did I just stay where we were at just because it was the easy thing to do. I want to make sure that we rode this thing hard. And once again, when we rode it hard, we won, we lost, but we tried. That's it. But we're going to freaking win in every category. I'll tell you that.
It gets the adrenaline going too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fired up. You got me excited.
Awesome. Well, man, it's pretty crazy to see everything that's going on right now. What are you most excited about this year?
I'm excited to help a lot of people change their life. Excited to help a lot of people change their life, right? And it's already happening. It's already happening.
Amen.
So
Amen.
I had a great time with you guys today. Today was a good day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Always a good time. Good to have you on, brother.
I definitely enjoyed it. I appreciate the invite. And like I said, as I was sitting here, I was just fired up. I'm ready to run through a brick wall right after this. So today was definitely
make sure
great.
I'm not on the other side of it.
I'll make sure you're there. Just for fun.
I low-key want to watch, you know?
Never seen a linebacker in a suit.
Hey, you guys comment if you want to see me run through Chris just for fun. Just for fun.
Oh my God. There better be some sort of financial incentive for me on this.
That's it, man. Well, I love it. I appreciate you guys. And guys, if you got something out of today, if you guys can do me a favor, if you can like, share, and subscribe, go follow these guys too. All right, we got Abdoul Adjanakrou here. We got Chris Nott. Go find these guys on social media. But once again, if you guys got something out of today's message, if you can like, share, and subscribe, it means the world to us. And obviously, we put out all this information for free, and it's just because we're trying to help as many people as we possibly can. So we thank you guys. We love you guys, and we'll see you guys next week. Not a Kindle. You outdated, I'm the one they getting into, and I don't break a sweat. Let's get it.